You and your team have been handed a project. Stakes are high, timelines tight, and the pressure's on. You want it done right, but you also don't want to stifle your team's creativity. So how do you lead without micromanaging, without becoming a control freak? Micromanagement is a trap. It kills creativity, erodes trust, and burns out your team. Harvard Business School notes micromanagement is one of the top reasons employees leave their companies because it kills creativity, breeds mistrust, and causes undue stress. At the same time, being too hands-off can leave your team directionless. The sweet spot is leading with intention, not control, and today I'm going to give you 3 techniques on how to do that. Technique number 1 is a step in only when offered, not by default. One of the biggest mistakes is interfering too early. Harvard Business Review suggests 3 things to consider when you're deciding if you want to intervene or not. The first is a step in only when team members are ready for help and not because they're not doing it the way you would do it. Second is to clarify that you are there to help, not to do the work for them. And 3 is to match your involvement to the team's pace and maturity. Mentoring is key here. Ask questions, don't give directives. This approach lets you ask, would you like me to help, or step back and let them frame the help they need from you instead of jumping in at the first sign of struggle. Technique 2 is to set clear outcomes, not methodologies. Don't prescribe how something must be done, only what must be delivered. This difference frees your team up to own the how that they're going to do things with. When you tell them what success looks like, whether that's deliverables, timeline, quality, whatever that is, and leave room for their innovation, you maintain accountability without too much control over them. The Anxious Micromanager article in HBR warns that when leaders insert themselves, they send the message, I don't trust you to think for yourself. Technique number 3 is to use checkpoints instead of check-ins. Rather than constant status requests, build in structured checkpoints like a midpoint review, the vector checks we've talked about in other videos, or rapid red flag tripwires that will tell them they need to come talk to you. This approach balances visibility and autonomy. You stay informed, but you avoid hovering. Another HBR article, HBR has a lot to say on this topic, strike a balance between micromanaging and being too hands-off, outlines signals when a leader is veering too far or into control or negligence, and how to course correct. Okay, so one thing I haven't touched on yet in this is the idea of what are the stakes of the outcome. If the stakes are high that a certain outcome is achieved, it will be tempting to be much more involved with how the team is doing what they're doing. I completely understand that feeling, and I've been there myself. My advice is, instead of checking in more frequently, double down on using the red flag tripwires and the vector checks that we've talked about in the past, and make sure that your team members know they can come to you when they have questions or are facing a problem. But if they're bringing you a problem, they should always bring you a recommendation or a solution. All right, now you have 3 more techniques to develop your team members into leaders without being a control freak. Remember to define outcomes, not the process for them to follow. Pause before intervening. Let them come to you first, depending on the stakes, and use structured checkpoints, not continuous check-ins. And be clear about roles, responsibilities, and the level of autonomy each team member has with you. As always, do some reflection and ask, did I overstep? Did I stay too hands-off? What can I do different next time? When you apply this consistently, your team will stop expecting micromanagement and will start leaning into ownership, initiative, and accountability. That's all for this week. If you found this useful, please like it and share it with someone who can use it. Also, subscribe for more tips like this. Tell us in the comments what's one project you're tempted to micromanage right now. Try one of these tactics instead and share what happens. If you find these videos helpful, check out our Be the Boss program. It's a 16-week online self-paced program with online group coaching that helps you become the boss you always wish you had when you were started out. And if you are an operations manager, training manager, HR director, head of people, chief people officer in a company somewhere, and you've got a lot of managers you want to train all at once, our Leadership Academy is a great option. It's a hybrid program where we come into your company, we do in-person workshops, and then one-on-one virtual coaching with each of the students on the weeks we're not there. Okay, so go out there, do great things today, onward and upward.